everyone, and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to be talking about the relatively new movie, which was simply titled Daddio, and this movie has a very small cast, pretty well only 2 people. There's a couple other people in the movie really, but overall this movie mainly stars Sean Penn and Dakota Johnson, which is the only reason why I even wanted to see this movie was because Dakota Johnson's in here. I think she is a phenomenal actor, and not only that, but I really felt bad for her after the whole Madame Web type thing. You know, I feel like Sony really messed around with her, made her think one thing and sort of deceived her a little bit. I think she really believed that she was going to be a part of the MCU and have this phenomenal role, and I just feel like Sony really did her dirty. And so it was really good to see her again in this type of role. And of course, Sean Penn. I mean, who doesn't like Sean Penn, right? He's a great actor, has done lots of great work over his years. And actually, when I seen the poster, the movie poster for this movie, what really drew me to the movie, because I had no idea what it was. I never watched the trailer. All I seen on the poster, you know, for the marketing, I guess, it said Sean Penn at his finest, giving his greatest performance. And honestly, after seeing this movie, Daddio, I would probably have to agree this was, I think probably in my opinion, and it's only my opinion and all these things are subjective, but I do think that this was probably Sean Penn's greatest performance. And man, boy, did Dakota Johnson play really well off of, did her character play really well off of him. So he portrays a character known as Clark, and Dakota portrays a character known as Girly, or I think they just he just refers to her as Girly or something like that in the movie. And so the idea is the entire movie, and also by the way, this is a very small grounded movie, so the whole movie takes place in one setting pretty well, one form of scenery, which is of course inside of a taxi cab. Now the reason why the movie is called Daddio is because they sort of go down you know, sort of Girly's sort of inner kinky side, so to speak, and how she's sort of having an affair with this married man, and he's much older, more mature than she is, and she likes to call him daddy, and he likes to hear her call her daddy and whatnot. And of course, how this story is told, even though the whole thing takes place inside of a taxi cab, in my opinion, was brilliant. They did have other characters sort of not really interject, well yeah, interject but not interfere, if that makes sense, through her cell phone, like text messaging. She talks to Daddio on the text messaging and whatnot, and it gets really steamy, really spicy at times. I would not go as far as saying that this movie is like a hard R, rated R or anything like that, but I would say I wouldn't let your really young children watch it. If it's a teenager, then maybe, sure, fine, but there does be, you know, some things in here which are adult theme, but not to the point, like I said, where this is like a rated R. But there is still some very mature scene in it, specifically with Girly's conversation with Daddy or Daddio and whatnot. And so I really liked how this movie explored that, because I was very curious when I was thinking to myself, like, how could you have a whole movie take place in a taxi cab? One of my favorite movies of 2023 was actually a movie called Nowhere. Probably was my #1 movie of 2023, and that whole movie takes place in a sea can. So now I'm here with this whole movie taking place in a taxi cab, and honestly, man, it was phenomenal. I really liked it. What I liked, I think, the most about this is, yes, Sean Penn gives it a phenomenal performance, but what I also really like is that Sean Penn is sort of a realist, and Girly is sort of living the world from her perspective as this girl who's, you know, probably after being hit on by a lot of guys and whatnot, but she's also having this affair with an older gentleman, whereas Clark, who's portrayed by Sean Penn, the driver of the cab, he's very realistic, and he's like, well, you know, he probably is probably not really that into you. He's probably just trying to get into your pants. He's already got in your pants. He's clearly married with children. Like, this is literally only an affair and whatnot. And I really like that, you know, Clark speaks the truth. The conversations in this movie were very real and very, you know, very true. They're very almost mythological, or is that the right word? Almost, you know, like they have such a heavy conversations that it almost is like it's real conversations. It's like real, true, hearty, life lesson type conversations, and that's what is so compelling about the story, is that Sean Penn and his character says it like it is. He says, listen, men are like this. This is what a man wants. He's just trying to get into your pants. And she's a little more defensive, but also she's not oblivious to it. And I just love their chemistry and the whole conversation that they had. I thought both of them were great. The writing in this movie is really what makes it, because like I said, the whole thing takes place in a taxi cab. So you know, the performance has got to be good, but ultimately the writing and the dialogue has to be good, because that's all it is. It's just two characters talking to each other for like an hour and 40 minutes, and that is exactly what it is. But it was so interesting. The conversations were so amazing, so phenomenal. If I was going to nitpick this movie, Daddio, I would say that by the third act and going into the third act, the conversation, especially with Girly and like what she says and stuff, they do go down a route that I kind of wish they would not have went down. I wish they kind of stuck with, you know, the conversations and the type of things they were saying for the first two acts. So the third act did go down a path. The conversation does sort of take a turn that I was really not necessarily not expecting, but I just didn't really care for. I didn't find it that compelling or that interesting. So I would say that probably the third act was the weakest for me. These things are subjective. Maybe you thought the third act was the best. For me, I thought it was the weakest, which is never good for a movie, because you want to leave the theater or leave your viewing experience, you know, in awe. You would rather have the ending good as opposed to the opening good. If you have a really good ending to a movie, no matter how bad the first act is or even the second act, you can sort of forgive it because of how good the third act was, and you left the theater on a high. Whereas I feel like in this one, you know, I feel like the first act was phenomenal, the introduction and sort of laying down the groundwork. The second act then was even better, because then it's taken these foundational pieces that it laid in the first act and now building upon it and developing these two characters and this story and these phenomenal conversations, almost flawless dialogue in this movie. And then, but by the time we get to the third act, I feel like the writing shifted in a way that I wasn't really a big fan of, where the conversation ends up leading by the end. But overall, I absolutely love Daddio. I would highly recommend it. If I had to put a number on this, I would definitely give this like a 65 or 70% easily. If the third act had have landed better for me, I would have probably said this would have been one of my favorite movies of the year, just like Nowhere last year. But you know, unfortunately, the third act did go down a path that I really wasn't overly interested in, but still had a lot of fun and would recommend it. And this was, I think, probably Sean Penn's best performance, and even Dakota Johnson, I thought she did a phenomenal job as well. But anyways, folks, that's my review for Daddio. Let me know in the comment section below if you've seen it, and if you'd like to tell me why not like this video, click that subscribe button, and until the next one, take care.